Hello, 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 hello. Welcome to another episode of the Amanda Show. So we have, as always, we have quite a number of things to talk about today. So first, we start with Rwanda. Rwanda had their elections this week, and as expected, President Paul Kagame won the elections. But the reason I'm talking about Rwanda's elections is because there's been quite a number of pushback against that election. In fact, some political analysts have faulted Kagame, saying that, oh, he wants to stay in power for decades, he wants to be president for life, that Rwanda is not a democratic society, and the rest of it. So, because of that, I want to talk about the elections in Rwanda. Then, after Rwanda, we are going back to Kenya. For several weeks, Kenya has been the center of attention on the continent. So, you already know that the about the protest that has been going on in Kenya against the um, government proposed tax hikes that Ruto finally scrapped. But then people have taken when once he scrapped that, after a while, it seemed like the whole thing had subsided. Then the people have taken to the streets again. In today's episode of the Amanda Show, I want to say something about the protests in Kenya, and it's not going to be a very popular opinion because also this week Ruto accused Ford Foundation of funding the protest in his country. Of course, as expected, Ford Foundation denied it. But I want to say something that is not so popular. In fact, I might get a lot of pushback, but I'm going to say it anyway because I believe it's the truth. Then after Kenya, we will be stopping back over in Senegal. So this week, or more recently, President Faye, the populist president of Senegal, he said something that shocked a lot of people. So he said he's not looking to abruptly cut ties with France. And then a lot of people were like, oh my God, I thought the reason you came into power was to cut was to cut ties with France because France has been plundering Senegal, blah 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 blah, and their military base is instigating chaos and all of those things. So because of the reaction of a lot of people, I want to take time to talk about what I actually feel about what's going on between Senegal and Paris. All this in this episode of the Amanda Show. As always, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, share this video with your friends, and also like and let me know your opinion about as we delve into the topics. Let me know your opinion about the different segments and the different topics we're covering today so that this message can reach a lot more Africans as we're coming together to build a beautiful continent. Thank you for joining me in this episode. Let's begin. So yes, we are beginning with Rwanda. As you like I already mentioned earlier, and as you should already know, the president Paul Kagame has secured another term as the president of Rwanda. This has led to a lot of people saying, "Oh, Rwanda is not a democratic society. Oh, Kagame is an authoritarian. Oh, this and this, no opposition party. Blah 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 blah." Okay, now let's talk. We expected him to win, and he won. But quite all right, Kagame does some things, particularly with his neighbors, that I'm not quite a fan of. But I want to talk about what he has done in Rwanda. This Rwanda is the same country that let's not forget that Rwanda is the same country that experienced the most devastating ethnic genocide in modern history when with the Rwanda civil war. In fact, this is one of the reasons I respect Paul Kagame a lot. So the way what Rwanda witnessed, we should expect that by now there should still be ethnic tensions in the country. But under under Kagame's strong leadership, that doesn't exist. Under Kagame's strong leadership, he has been able to unite a country that experienced the most devastating ethnic cleansing, genocide in modern history. I believe about 800,000 to a million were killed. Do you understand? So the way things, based on their history, you would expect that things should be chaotic now, but it's not. Kagame has been able to unite the country under his strong leadership. Having said that, Rwanda is one of the most peaceful countries in Africa. Rwanda is a place where it's one of the best performing countries in Africa when it comes to ease of doing business. Rwanda is safe. The educational sector and the health sector in Rwanda is very impressive. So these are the things that Kagame has done. And so I don't this is the reason why I'm not surprised that he gets these votes because, yeah, he gets these votes and he wins these elections because he has done impressively well for his country. But having said that, I want to use this opportunity to discuss this whole thing of democracy. Now, these are 4 year cycle. Like in Nigeria, it's 4 years. In some other African countries, they have 5 years. Rwanda, I believe Rwanda is 7 years. But these are cycle of elections. I have an issue with it because this, yeah, I have an issue with it because it makes our leaders think small. They don't have long vision. If you're running a company, for example, you hear businesses discuss their long-term goals 50 years down the line, 100 years down the line. You also hear them say 30 years as well as short-term goals. But the way neoliberal democracy works with all these 4 year cycles, and it's not just an African thing, even in the United States. This is one of my biggest issues with democracy, this type of democracy that we practice, is that it makes our leaders see short term. If you need a long term vision to run your company properly, don't you need a long term vision to run a country properly? I think you do. So for me, it's not so much about changing government as it is for the government to be effective. That's why I started this segment by mentioning the accomplishments of President Paul Kagame. You can't deny the things that he has done. Rwanda is not a hotspot for terrorism. It's not a hotspot for ethnic violence because of Paul Kagame's leadership. Rwanda is a safe country. Rwanda is doing well. Like businesses in Rwanda, it's a favorable place to run businesses because of Paul Kagame's leadership. The educational sector is doing well. The health sector is doing well because of Paul Kagame's leadership. So we are not. This is not an issue of the leader is ineffective, and even in spite of his ineffectiveness, he's still holding on to power. As to be the case with Paul Biya in Cameroon, we spoke about that in the last episode of the Amanda Show because I think it's a very that the government of Cameroon has not done anything for their country and yet is clinging on to power. That I have an issue with that, but I don't have an issue with the president who stays 10 years, who stays 20 years in power. I believe Kagame has been in power this year makes it 24 years. If as long as the government is effective, if you look at the United States, the leaders tend to think in 4 year cycle. The same thing with Nigeria. In fact, the current president of Nigeria, we're having issues with his administration because of the way the economy of Nigeria has plummeted. In spite of that, they are still saying 2027. You haven't fixed the current issue that the country is experiencing. You're talking about 2027. So that's the problem. So this form of democracy limits you. You don't think far. I'm going to give you another example with China, the Communist Party in China. Because it's a party and they don't do this kind of 4 year cycle, they can have a 100 year vision for China. And so it doesn't matter who comes into power, you're expected to effectively pursue that 100 year vision of China. So they think long term. The same thing with Russia. They say, oh, Putin has been in power for a long time. Putin is holding this, blah, 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 blah. But let's not forget that under President Vladimir Putin, Putin brought Russia from its knees. Literally, Russia had terrorism issues. Russia had poverty issues. Russia had um, security issues. The whole thing, the situation in the country was terrible. The people were poor. Yes, this same Russia now. Putin brought Russia back on its feet to make it a global player, a world power. But he needed time to be able to accomplish that. I would have taken President Obasanjo's in Nigeria. I would have taken President Obasanjo's leadership over again. 20 years of Obasanjo, 30 years of Obasanjo. I would have taken that because Obasanjo put Nigeria on a path of prosperity. I would have taken that than have these other four years leaders who have come in and they have ravaged and decimated the economy of Nigeria. In 2015, under Jonathan, Nigeria was over $500 billion economy. It was projected to hit $1 trillion in a short time. Today, as we speak, Nigeria is sitting at 200 billion. This 4 year cycle of incompetence. So for me, it's not so much to those who are saying, why is Kagame holding on to power, blah, blah, blah. To those who are making that argument and making faulting Kagame with that, it's not so much about things. In fact, I would happily take a leader who stays in power for a long time as long as the person is working than have a leader who stays in power for just 4 years and decimates the country. Do you understand? So I'm saying that because I need Africa to, you know, we need to begin to have mold our systems, our respective political systems, our political institutions, our form of governance, and even our economy. We need to be able to mold our systems to fit the African narrative, the African situation. We are not because many of countries in Africa, all we did was inherit what the colonizers left. So why, for example, why do we have three arms of government? Or they tell you, "Oh, is to separate the whole thing so that no single arm can have absolute power to separate the whole thing." That's what they tell you. Because these three arms of government formed because of an issue they were having in the West. Are you feeling? I do you understand where I'm coming from? So they formed this thing, they formed their political systems based on the challenges they had. What if you look at lots of countries in Africa? There are three arms of government in paper. At the end of the day, most of them are in the pocket of the president. Most of them are in the pocket of the president. So they don't even function the way they were supposed to function because we do not know why they were set up. Do you, do you get where I'm coming from? We do not know why they were set up. We just know it's supposed to be like this. Why is it supposed to be like this? Then we give you the reason the Westerners told, the colonizers told us. I don't fault it really because it's supposed to be a system that works. It works for them, right? So we give you a reason that the colonizers told us. But then when you begin to look at the way we implement it, it's it's as good as not existent. So what I'm advocating for is those who are faulting Kagame and saying he's authoritarian, he's a this, he's a that. We need to look away from the status quo and begin to mold our political systems, mold our economic systems to suit our respective countries. If you look at China, they tell you it's communism from a China point of view, from a Chinese point of view. So they took that communism something, but they molded it for their own challenges to fit their unique state. Because as every country in Africa, we are different. If there's a reason for okay, in Rwanda, for example, they say there's no freedom of the press. I haven't really. It's possible. It's really possible. But I haven't really taken a real close look at that to know it's true. But I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not making that argument. I'm just saying now, one if you listen to what the government say at times, you can take fault with it. I'm not taking sides. I just want to lay down the arguments. If you listen to what the government says at times, they have said that on certain circumstances where they have to sanction some of the media houses, that they are trying to stoke ethnic issues in the country. And now this is a country that things are still things can still be sensitive because the genocide was just 1994. It's not a long time ago. It's just 30 years ago. It's not a long time ago. So many of those people who perpetrated this act are still alive. Many of the descendants of those people who were killed, many of those who even saw their family members being killed, are still alive. 30 years ago is not a long time. So those wounds, even if the country is trying to move away from it, those wounds can still be there. Do you understand? So that is why they may be dealing with issues gently, gently, gently. So what am I trying to say? In as much as, like I said before, not not every foreign policy of Paul Kagame do I approve of, but we cannot deny what he has done for his country. And if Rwanda is trying to create a system, even someone made an argument, that was very insightful. Someone made an argument that there are no freedoms in Rwanda, and then like freedom of the press, freedom of speech, freedom of different things. Now, another person now said, I was listening to the debate. Another person now said, it has never been. Rwanda is right now. Rwanda is just trying to create its own system. So there's nothing to say. Oh, there was freedom of the press before. Then Paul Kagame came and ended it. None of those things exist. At least based on that debate, none of those things existed. None of those things existed. So it's right now that Rwanda is trying to form its own political institution and keep something strong. Rwanda is a country that is doing well for women's rights. I believe a good number of people in their parliament are women. It's also doing well for youth. The youths are well represented in the government. So I'm not saying it's perfect, but Rwanda is creating a system that works for it. Let them, this is the process of making that system. You're comparing yourself to the United States that has been working its system for over 200 years. Rwanda is 1994. You're comparing yourself to the UK that has been working its system for hundreds of years. Meanwhile, a country like Nigeria is just picking up from 1960. So of course you would fall. Of course you would have hiccups here and there. Nobody says it's going to be perfect. But rather than say the way it is in the West, we have to put it here, or the way it is in China, we have to put it here. No, we for us see our in fact that is the reason why a lot of African countries seems like there is political like the political systems are not strong because the political systems were not set up by us. Political systems are set up to be the answer to challenges that respective countries face. But when you inherit your own systems and your own institutions, you do not know why they were set up in the first place. You do not know the solution that they were set up to serve. They may tell you in theory, but until you have that pinch, right? Until you have that pinch, you may not know you may not know why the solution exists. Let me give you an example in Nigeria because this is where I'm from. This is where I stay. Let me give an example with Nigeria. Uh Judges are selected, which is the same way it is in the West and the rest of them. Our judges are selected by the president, are appointed by the president. What is to call the Supreme Court of judges and the rest of them? They are appointed by the president. But we have seen the challenge now that I have noticed is that this, at the end of the day, these people in the judiciary tend to be subservient to the president. So they're in the president's pocket. They tend to be in the president's pocket. Why? Because they feel, oh, it's you that gave me this thing, so I have to be loyal to you. That's a challenge. Now, in other countries, the president is selecting the Supreme Court judges and the rest of them. It works well, right? Based on their own challenges. But we now we have found out that if our president keeps selecting our Supreme Court this thing, we found out that they are now in the pockets of the president. So a solution to that could be, why don't we now have elections within our judiciary system? That means this is our way of really dividing the executive from the judiciary. Instead of the president to then be selecting the Supreme Court justices and the rest of them, why don't we have elections? So the Nigerian Bar Association, the judiciary system, the lawyers and everybody within it, we elect those who go to the Supreme Court. That way, it's going to give them more autonomy over the executive arm of government. So these are the ways we need to begin to think. These are the ways we need to begin to think in Africa. What are the challenges we are facing? Let's not say, oh, we cannot adjust this thing because that's the way it is in the rest of the world. I'm opposing that. The fact that it's working in the rest of the world and we put it here, it's not working. Let us adjust it because these are the ways when we ourselves we set up our systems, we mold our systems to be answers to the challenges that respective African countries are facing. Our economic and political systems and institutions will be more effective. This is how we get more effective political systems and institutions. So it's not about mirroring what they are doing outside. It's about creating things to serve us. So that's what I'm advocating for. Instead of we to be fighting Paul Kagame, that is holding power for 250,000 years, for 250,000 years. And like I said before, I would have preferred to have 30 years of President Olusegun Obasanjo in Nigeria than have the nonsense we have had for several decades. So politics and economy, they are supposed to serve the people. When we look at it and we see it's not working, we change it. And if it's working, we find how can we make it function very well. And if it's functioning very well, we leave it. Leave Rwanda alone. The only thing I would say about Paul Kagame, I wish he would do better things with his neighbors and his foreign policy because a lot of things that we are hearing that he's doing outside of Rwanda is not beneficial to the continent. Like these are just accusations, although he has denied in their defense The government of Rwanda have denied it, but the accusation is coming from everywhere, from the United Nations, from even fellow African countries. But if that is true, it's better to fix what is going on, like adjust your policy, your foreign policy. But when it comes to local politics, I think Paul Kagame is doing a good job. And if he's doing a good job for Rwanda, what are we complaining about? Over the past 24 years, President Paul Kagame has put Rwanda on the path of success. And if it stays on the path of success and prosperity, why are we faulting it? Well, let me know what you think. What's going on in Rwanda? Do you think Paul Kagame has overstayed as president? Are you in support of switching up government every cycle? Or do you think a strong leader who keeps things in order and is working very well for his country can stay as possible, as long as he's able to do the job of the president, not when he's senile, like what is going on in some leaders in other African countries and the United States? All right. Let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel. Now, from Rwanda, we move over to Kenya. Kenya has decided it's going to be a main event when it comes to activities in the continent for the past several weeks. So you should already know by now there's been protests in Kenya. In fact, it subsided after the government scrapped the um the proposed tax hike bill. It subsided and it just started again just yesterday. So that's why I want to talk about this. Now, also recently, even before the protest kicked off again, President William Ruto accused the Ford Foundation, of sponsoring the protests that have been going on in his country. If he did a video about it in a campaign, was it campaign? Well, he did a video about it when he was talking to some people, and he also tweeted it. So watch this video and let's come back to discuss that.
We have no use for anarchy and violence and destruction of property and loss of life. Wale ambao wanasponsor hiyo violence, sisi tunawajua. And I want to call out those who are behind the anarchy in Kenya, those who are behind the sponsoring the chaos in the Republic of Kenya. Shame on them, because they are sponsoring violence against our democratic nation. Mimi nataka niulize watu wa Ford Foundation, watuambie hiyo pesa wanatoa ifanye fujo ndio wapate faida gani? We are going to call them out and we are going to tell them, if they are not interested in democracy in Kenya, if they are going to sponsor violence, if they are going to sponsor anarchy, we are going to call them out and we are going to tell them they either style up or they leave.
That's quite a bold statement. And now, remember, this is the president of the country. So it's very likely that he's getting this information from his intelligence agencies. Now, I've heard some people say, oh, please, Ruto and his government have accused everybody from opposition parties to the Russians. Oh, everybody's been accusing. But this is the first time that Ruto himself is calling somebody or calling an institution. And he said it's the Ford Foundation that is responsible for this protest. Why? I don't know. I don't know. But I do know, one thing I do know is that protests like this, hmm, protests like this don't just happen. They are actually funded. Now the question is, whoever is funding it, what are they trying to accomplish? Like I said when I started this episode, I said I'm going to say some things that a lot of people in Africa will not be happy about. But I'm going to say because I think it's true. As expected, Ford Foundation has denied this. I don't know if Ford Foundation is responsible. I don't know if they're not responsible. And I don't know who is responsible. But one thing I do know is that they are setting Kenya on fire. Yes, Ruto was wrong for listening to the IMF. Very wrong. Yes, Ruto was wrong. When the protest started, he did not address it immediately. Sometimes that's the problem with a lot of leaders in Africa and maybe even around the world. Because you're in office, you think you can just behave anyhow. You think you can just say anything and every other person be damned. So Ruto didn't address. When you see things moving like this, you address it immediately. Ruto was very slow. His government was very slow in addressing it. In fact, there was even a time when there was this speech he gave when he was addressing the killings, when the protest had escalated. He was addressing the killings. He almost, it was, in fact, he came as close as calling the people who were protesting terrorists. He didn't say that, but he came as almost as close as that. So he was wrong with that. I accept. But burning your country is not the answer. If you go back to my very first episode, my very first year episode when I addressed the protest in Kenya, I said something. I said it's good that you're letting your government know that this is, they can't do any kind of nonsense, which is true because it's part of your rights as a citizen, and it's given to you by God. It's not even given to you by a government. It's part of your rights to push back when your government is doing nonsense. It's right, it's correct. But I said something in that video. I said once the government gives into your demands, because I knew Ruto's government was going to give into the demands. I said once your government gives into that demand, go home and celebrate your win. Because why did I say that? It is very, listen to me. It is very easy for bad faith actors to hijack honest demonstrations and turn it into something else. It is very easy. We experienced that in Nigeria in 2020 when the NSAS protest. NSAS was a very legitimate issue that Nigerian youth had with the government. Very legitimate issue. Did the government answer? Yeah, the government ended up scrapping the SAS something. But some people then hijack. Later, when things got out of hand, they were like, no, Nigerian youths were surprised. No, because Nigerian youths, when they were starting their protest, they would protest. After protest, they would clean the whole place. They would sweep. In fact, they were giving foods to people. It was more of, it was even a national bonding moment. But after a while, we saw in the middle of all those protests, we started seeing burning and looting. This thing it's not the youth who are doing this thing. Before we realized what was happening, they had hijacked the protest. So why am I saying that? Because in Kenya, I'm seeing the same pattern. I'm seeing the same pattern. If you now I'm seeing buildings are burning, I'm seeing looting. Now I'm seeing weapons. Like how are things getting out of hand? I'm saying this because we have seen this in Nigeria and it's following the same pattern. Even if you look into countries outside of Africa, into other countries around the world, it's following some very suspicious pattern of protest. Do you get where I'm coming from? That's why I said things when you see protests like this, they are in many occasions it is funded by people who are looking to achieve something in your country. And sometimes what they are looking to achieve in your country may not necessarily be in your interest. As you have gotten the win of the government having scrapped the what they call it, having scrapped the tax proposed tax hike, go home and celebrate your win. If not, when these perpetrators successfully hijack this thing, you will be shocked at what you're going to see in your country. Because it's okay to disagree with your government, yes, but burning your buildings, burning your cars, looting your businesses, burning shops, how are those people going to recover? Those shops that you burnt, are they the people who are asking for tax hike? Those businesses you looted, are they the people who are asking for tax hike? So why are you punishing the people? I'm saying it because I know it is not the protesters who are doing this burning and looting. It's not them. There are some bad faith actors. Some bad faith actors are doing this thing. Kenya, it's in your interest. At this point, it's in your interest to calm down the situation because if you keep letting this thing rah, if you you may be surprised what may happen in Kenya. You'll be very shocked because it started as innocent protest and you were right to protest because your government was wrong to, to propose that bill of taxing. Your government was wrong not to address it immediately when people started complaining. Your government was wrong to come out to make your president Ruto was wrong to come out to make that initial speech that he made. We accept. But some people are pushing this thing, taking Kenya to a path that is not good. Taking Kenya to a path that is not good. And if you let it get out of hand, these people will destroy your country. Kenya, these people will destroy your country. Look at how they destroyed Haiti. Look what has happened to Haiti. If surprise, interestingly, it is still Kenya's troops that it's still Kenya they asked to lead coalition of foreign troops into Haiti. But let's not forget that this gang issue now in Haiti is a result of several things that were done in Haiti for several decades. Let's not forget that. I'm saying this thing now because I'm saying it even if I know that I will get pushback from a lot of people in Africa. But I'm saying it because I think it's the truth. The people who are pushing your country in this direction and not pushing it for your own good. You have gotten your win. The government has scrapped the proposed tax hike and they'll be stupid to want to implement it again. They'll be very stupid to want to implement it again now that you have gotten your win. Do not let outside agitators, do not let bad faith actors take your country to a path that is not going to be in your benefit. Don't let them. So what should you do instead? Stay at home and celebrate your win. Stay at home and celebrate your win. Because when you're seeing people burn, you started as peaceful protests, now we are seeing riots. You're seeing people burn down buildings. Why are you burning your country? You say it's a government building. I want them to know I'm angry. It's a government building. It is still your own building. The government is your government. When Ruto leaves office, he's not going to take that building and put it inside his pocket and take it to his retirement home. It's going to be with you. When you burn those cars, they're still your cars. They're still your cars. Those shops, I mentioned it earlier, those shops that are being looted, is it the owners of those shops that said Ruto should increase tax? Why are you hurting your businesses? Those shops in your neighborhood that you are burning, are they not employing Kenyans? Is it not Kenyans that they're employing? Is it not? Those businesses that are burnt, were they not employing Kenyans? Were they not? Were they not helping the economy of your country? Were they not owned by Kenyans? Is it IMF that owns those businesses that are being burnt? Is it the IMF? Is it Ruto's business that you're burning? It's your own businesses in your community that are employing people in your community, maybe even your relatives, that are putting money into the economy of your country in Kenya. So even if you're angry with Ruto, and yes, Ruto deserves all the anger. Ruto deserves all the anger because he did not handle this situation well. But even if you're upset with Ruto, your country should be more important. Country over self. Your country should be more important. So instead of saying yes, instead of adding fuel to the fire and saying keep agitating, calm the situation. Because when there is chaos, it's very easy. I'm saying this thing, hold your ear, in your ears. It's very easy for bad faith actors to come in to take your country in the direction that is not good for you. Look at history. Kenya will not be the first. Kenya will not be the first. Look at Ukraine. What happened in Ukraine? This fire that is burning in Ukraine now, it started in 2014 when the people went to the street and they were shouting, and they, they removed their government. Yes, it was a coup. But now, who are the people who are dying at the battlefront? They're Ukrainians. It's Ukrainians that are dying on the battlefront. It's not the people who pushed them there. It's not them. So am I saying this thing? I'm saying it because Kenya, the peace in your country is important. I'm hearing now that some gangs are rising up in this chaos. Ah, remember it's gang violence that they are suffering in Haiti. Remember it's gang violence that are suffering in Haiti. So it's in your interest right now before things really escalate out of control. Calm the situation. So yes, you won your government. You fought your government and you won. Kenyans, yes. Gen Z in Kenya, yes. You fought your government and you won. Enough. When you've already won, why are you still punching? It's like beating a defeated adversary. You have defeated them already. So why are you still punching? Leave it for the good of your country. When there is chaos, you cannot do business properly. When there is chaos, investment will not come into your country. When there is chaos, people cannot go to school. Children cannot go to school. When there is chaos, nothing can be done. You can't implement any policy that benefits your country. So that is why peace is the most important thing in Kenya now. Calmness, calmness. Instead of adding fuel to the fire, pour water, extinguish the fire. Because when the fire is extinguished, you can do your businesses well. When the fire is extinguished, children, your education, the education of your children can continue. When the fire is extinguished, business can continue. When the fire is extinguished, you can go about and do your business without fear of your life or your property. So that is why the most important thing in Kenya now is stability. Is stability, is peace, is quietness over the anger over Ruto. Okay, if you want to get rid of Ruto, after 4 years, his tenure is over. Is it 4 or 5 years? I can't remember how many years it is in Kenya. What is tenure? Ruto cannot be president forever. Your constitution is against it. If you want him to step down, fine. You use through the normal channels. But to burn everything because of Ruto, Ruto is not worth the fire. Like I said before, he made a terrible mistake, but he's not worth the fire. He's not worth bringing Kenya to the ground because of. Let me know what you think. This is a very somber moment for me because I'm looking at what's going on in Kenya. I'm looking at what happened in Haiti, and I find it very interesting that what is going on in Haiti, they had to send police officers from Kenya to Haiti. I'm looking at what's going on, what has gone on in other parts of the world, and I know that if something is not done now to calm the situation, Kenya, it can get really terrible. So let me know what you think about the protest in Kenya. Do you think I'm right by asking to quell the flame, or do you think yes, the people should keep going that because we need to eject Ruto from the conversation by force? Let me know what you think about this in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with other people so that this message can get out to more Africans as we look forward and we work together to build our beautiful continent and our respective countries. One of the most surprising one of the most surprising things I have seen in Africa this year is the amazing president of Senegal, President Faye. So no, when he was contesting for elections, a lot of people were saying, yes, the Pan African is, yes, he's going to break away from colonization and colonizers like Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Yes, they were championing because of the rhetoric that was coming out of Senegal at that time, not just from him also, but from also from, is it, is it on Osako, that's the prime minister, I forgot his name, which is the original um opposition leader. All of them were saying these things. Well, it's been very funny because it's been very funny because President Fire has not really done what a lot of people thought he was going to do. So recently, he then said that he's not looking to. We were talking about French military bases in Niger, in Senegal. So he said he's not looking to abruptly cut off ties with France and end the whole thing. I'm paraphrasing now, but end the whole thing on a bad note and all of that. So he's looking to break away, like deal with the military base issue calmly. Hey, after he said that, hey, I did not have it in my in my bingo card that they were going to call the president of Senegal a Western puppet. A lot of people have said he's a Western puppet. He is he holding ties with France, blah blah blah, and they have. Oh my god, they're so upset with him. They're so upset with him. Well, I want to say something about that. I actually support him. Yes, I know that because Africa has experienced centuries of exploitation and ill treatment. So right now we are tense. In fact, we will just anybody who has been bad to us, go. We want to cut off ties with everybody. The idea, particularly within the Pan African group, is cut off ties with the West, embrace the East. I'm not of that opinion. I'm of the opinion of work with everybody. Work with everybody. They said no because the West has been exploiting Africa for decades, and that's the only thing they know how to do is to exploit Africa. They took Africa for slavery. They take our resources. All blah 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 blah. Okay, but the solution to that is not to completely cut off ties and focus on only one place. The solution to that is to make yourself strong because when you're strong, nobody can exploit you. Nobody can exploit you. So if you think it's about dumping the West and embracing the East, because which is true, the East does not have any history and has not shown any signs of colonizing or exploiting Africa, I accept. Yes. But who told you down the road things will not change? So I'm of the opinion of work with everybody, but work with everybody from a position of strength. That is why I say we need to build ourselves first. Because nobody will take you seriously on the global stage if you are not strong. Forget like I've said it in several episodes of the Amanda Show. They will say human rights and everybody's equal. No, when you watch out the things, this whole foreign policy something is played, this whole geopolitics is played. You find out that is not true. It's a battle of the strongest. That's the truth. So Africa needs to become from a position of strength. But as we are doing that, even when we do that, we still need to work with everybody because politics is not about closing doors. Politics, like they say, there's no permanent friend, there's no permanent foe. Politics is not about closing doors. So I agree with President Faye. You want to close French military bases in Senegal, fine, because at the end of the day, the military base has not executed the purpose for which it was set up. It was supposed to fix security issues, has not really fixed it. So if they're looking to remove, if maybe it's not just about security, maybe it's just to take out the military bases entirely because they do not want external players to be dealing and getting involved with the internal politics and internal dynamics of Senegal. I still support that. It's fine. But it's not about saying get out now. It's not about fighting France. Have a conversation with them. In fact, that's one of the things that I was really happy about Niger. Because when Niger was kicking out the French, they didn't initially kick out the Americans. No. Go and look at if you follow the whole thing, the way the whole thing played out, it wasn't about the Americans. It was about France go. Do you understand? And they had the reason they asked France to go. France go and France left. But the Americans were allowed to stay until certain things happened and the Americans were now telling them who to work with and who not to work with. I think there was a time that they said Americans were telling them not to work with Iran and blah blah blah. They were like, no, you cannot control our policy. Said we don't have an issue with you, but if you keep so the reason why they even told United States to leave was because US was meddling with their policy and trying to tell them who to be friends with and who not to be friends with, and who to work with and who not to work with. That was the issue with Niger and United States. Initially, it was with France. So I'm advocating for that same thing in Senegal. You want the French military to go, fine, that's good. Sit down with Macron and tell him. Sit down with Macron so that they would live amicably, right? It's not just about burning bridges and saying, no, we are not going to be friends with the West again. US and France and you, Britain and everybody and EU go and friends with only the Chinese and the Russians. That's not how to play geopolitics. In fact, if you take such a hard line, it will not work in your disadvantage. Because see this thing of um great power politics, see the way it works, is being neutral. That's the way it works, is be unless it directly affects you. If it doesn't directly affect you, don't take don't take don't take part. Don't say this is my friend, this is not my friend. Don't play it like that. Work with everybody. In fact, Africa, because we are still building ourselves to a place of strength and we're still working on Africa, we even need to open our options of partners. Am I a fan of the of France policy in Africa? No, I'm not. But that doesn't mean you completely cut off ties. Burkina Faso had a reason they did that. Mali had a reason they did that. Niger had a reason they did that. But in the case of Senegal, the French have not given them such a really. You can push back against this if you don't think I'm right. But to the best of my knowledge, the French has not given them overwhelming reason based on what's coming out from this government to completely cut off ties with France. They want because you may want the French military base to go, but you still want to sell goods to France. So if you now cut off relations in such a way that is so terrible, how can you then sell goods to France? You may argue and say we'll sell to other people, yes, but the more customers you have for your goods, the better for you. Especially as Africa is still trying to build itself. So yes, it's like today, it's like in this episode of the Amanda Show, I'm just saying things that people will say, no, no, I don't agree with you. And it's fine, you can push back. Let me know in the comment section. You can push back. But I'm saying that it's in Senegal's interest to leave the door open and calmly ask France to leave. France will leave. If I tell you, hey, okay, let me give you two instances. If I say, you get out of my house now, I start punching you and beating you and everything, okay, you would leave. But you may not, you will remember the way I harassed you. In fact, you may even decide to take vengeance. What if I sit you down calmly, quietly, and said, well, we've been friends for a very long time, but right now I think that in this area, this area, this area, this is not benefiting, this relationship is not benefiting me. So please leave. You will still leave, but you're less likely to want to retaliate because I did not embarrass you that much. That's what I'm saying. You should not embarrass fans too much. Fans are I've seen a lot of embarrassment. Yes, you may not like what I'm saying, but I'm telling you. So it's in Senegal's interest to get the military base out, but get it out calmly. Get it out calmly. The issue will now be if what's his name, President Faye begins to get new military, external military base, because I have an issue with external military base completely in a country. But I support removing the French military base from Senegal. But I'm advocating, just like the president, to take it out calmly. Because Africa, we don't need to play this is my side, this is my side. Let's work with everybody. In fact, a good example of working with everybody is India. You see, India is part of the AUKUS, that's America, Australia, UK, US, something. And everybody knows that it's called AUKUS, right? Yes, AUK, US. Everybody knows that it is set up against China. India is a part of it. India is still a part of BRICS, which is a Russian and Chinese led group. India is still a part of BRICS. And this is India that is already becoming a great power. So it's not like India is like what like the third or the fourth biggest economy in the world. Do you get where I'm coming from? So it's not as if India is in a completely terrible position that because so what I'm saying is India, even as it is becoming, it's not yet a great power, but it's becoming a great power. India, with its big economy, India with its population, India is a dominable, is an impressive force on the global stage. Even at that, India knows the importance of working with everybody until it now becomes until you get into a situation where the policy is directly against you, aha, then you can take side and decide you're taking the side for your own country. So you're not taking side with this person to fight this person. No, you're fighting for the interests of your country. Do you understand? So in the case of Senegal, it's not a bad idea. I'm advocating that Africa, we don't need to take no, we don't need to take sides. It's not about taking sides with US. Oh, I'm pro US, like what Ruto was trying to do, and Ruto decided to be a non-aligned a non-NATO ally of the United States. What are you doing, Kenya? So work with everybody. Don't completely take sides. Don't pitch your tent in one group, because once you pitch your tent in one side, you have automatically set up yourself against the other side. It's not in the interest of any African country because we're all trying to build ourselves. Not like what Ruto did in Kenya, that he decided to be a non-NATO ally of the United States, effectively setting up himself against the Russians. Why? And this is the same person who did not attend the Russia African Summit in 2023. I don't think that thing is a good policy for Kenya. I think Kenya should work with the Americans, yes. Work with the Europeans, yes. Work with the Russians. Work with the Chinese. So taking up sides is a bad idea. It's a bad idea. So even as Senegal under fire is trying to get rid of the external military base in his country, the French military base to be precise in his country, it's good. And I completely support that he wants to do it calmly. Let's not embarrass Macron. Macron has been embarrassed a lot in Africa over the past 3 years. It's been one devastating blow after another, one devastating blow after another. So please, I like how President Faye is going about it. Because I mentioned earlier, the most important thing is to build Africa. Because when Africa now plays from a place of strength, that is when people will respect you. It's not respect you by being like I said, like Ruto, completely pitching his tent to the Americans. That is doesn't make it's a very silly policy. Work with everybody. But the most important thing is to build ourselves. Because when you are strong, when Africa is strong, that is when they will respect us on the global stage. It's not about pitching tent here and there or completely saying, no, it's only the Russians that we work with. That's not the way to play geopolitics. Well, let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Should Senegal take it easy and calmly remove French military base in its country? Or should they go all out, guns blazing and say, France, out, out, out? Like they did in Burkina Faso and Mali. Let me know what you think about that. And this, let me know what you think about it in the comment section below. And if you even have any other ideas about how we can build Africa, because that's the purpose of this show. In case you have not noticed, We're not just talking about the happenings in Africa. We're also talking about the most important thing is to make Africa strong because the world is changing. And I want that as this multipolar world is forming, Africa ends up having a, a formidable place on the global stage. And it doesn't happen by wishing, it happens by we working. So let me know, do you have any ideas on how we can build Africa? Let me know in the comment section below. And then don't forget to like this video and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Well, that's it. That's all we can cover in this episode of the Amanda Show. I had a great time, but let me know what you think about each topic that we covered in the comment section below, beginning with Rwanda and Paul Kagame's leadership. What do you think about it? Do you think that he needs to get out of office? Or do you think that as long as he's working well for Rwanda, he can stay as long as he's able to effectively govern the country? And also let me know what you think about um, the the case I made against democracy or the kind of democracy we implement in Africa. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Let me know in the comment section below. And then also let me know what you think about what's going on in Kenya with the new talks of protest and then President Ruto pointing finger at the Ford Foundation and said the Ford Foundation is responsible for the protests in Kenya. Tell me your opinion in the comment section below. And finally, what's going on in Senegal? Share your opinion with me in the comment section below. Thank you so much for watching this episode. I'm so excited. You guys have made me so happy. I can't believe how fast we are growing. We are growing in lots, and it's because of you. So thank you for always stopping by to watch these videos. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye bye.